Thank you very much, Chairman Murkowski. Mr. Secretary, I wanted to start by touching briefly on Hurricane Ridge. That is a place, as you know, is very special to people in my home state of Washington, and visitors come to it from all over the world. I know that you visited Olympic National Park last week, and you saw how scenic it was and a hint of how brutal the weather can be. It's called Hurricane Ridge for a reason. The Hurricane Ridge Day Lodge burned down in a tragic fire 2 years ago, and Congress delivered the emergency funding necessary to rebuild it last year. In the execution report that you delivered to the committee in February, the disaster funding spend plan, you included the money for the Olympic National Park, I understand is for Hurricane Ridge. Do you have any updates for us on the next steps for that project?
No, but I did have an opportunity with the park superintendent and some of the lead people to actually get to Hurricane Ridge, and thankfully there was not 70-mile-an-hour winds. It was beautiful, sunny, calm, gorgeous, but I got to see the site where the fire had happened and was able to meet with them regarding the plans that they have, and it looks like a great project.
Good. And can you just keep my staff and me updated on that project as it moves forward? It's really important to all of us.
Okay, thank you.
As you saw, Washington State is home to a number of pristine public lands. People travel from all over the world to experience my state and Oregon. Secretary Burgum, our public lands aren't for sale. Protecting our wilderness, living up to our tribal obligations, keeping our communities safe, it's just not negotiable. And it's actually a core reason that your department does exist and have been these have been places with strong bipartisan support. So I'm really concerned that one of the first things you did was make deep, painful cuts at our parks and start talking about our public lands kind of like they're a piggy bank. I do not want to tell future generations that, see that river of sludge used to be clear, used to have salmon, or see that charred mountainside used to be a forest with campgrounds and trails, or that smokestack used to be a national park. I worry because it feels to me like your vision could lead to that with your budget cuts and mass firings and reorganization. And I'm deeply concerned about the proposed cuts to programs and funding that our tribes rely on, the mass firing of park rangers. They're the people who help our visitors. They clear the trails, they clean the bathrooms, they respond to emergencies, and it just, as I watch this and hear from folks and see what's happening, on top of getting some bedrock environmental protections, I just don't see how your department can execute the law without staff in place. So just let me ask you, in your short tenure, you have overseen significant staffing reductions, over 10%, and reorganization efforts across the Department of Interior with, I understand, more firings to come. The National Park Service has lost 18% of its staff. You managed to actually fire the only plumber at Mount Rainier National Park. There's just nothing efficient about that kind of management. You've also decided that what few staff remain at our national parks will focus solely on visitor services. That really abandons the conservation mission, which no doubt will lead to the degradation of our natural resources and our parks. Actually, on May 8th, 5 former NPS directors, Republican and Democratic administration alike, raised really grave concerns about these decisions. And they wrote that the National Park Service's founding statute requires conservation at our parks, so they will, quote, be unimpaired for the enjoyment of future generations. You know, we need trail guides and biologists. We need EMTs and geologists. We need snowplow drivers, and we need historians. Mr. Secretary, do you acknowledge that you do have a statutory obligation to conserve our national parks? And that's really a simple yes or no.
Yes.
Well, it just feels to me watching this that you are abandoning that obligation with the staffing cuts, and your job is to carry out the laws that Congress has passed, not as you wish were written. So let me ask you, how many people do you plan to fire from the National Park Service?
Let me respond by saying, I'm going to repeat myself, that there's an opportunity to have more people working in our parks in all the positions that you've described, Senator, and have less people working for the National Park Service. We just have to accept that this math, that if you've got a situation where slightly less than 50% of the people actually work in the park, that everything you said, I can increase the number of people in the park, but still decrease the number of people on payroll at the National Park Service because we're eliminating overhead, back office, IT, and HR roles. And so I can agree with everything that you're saying, but then to have a mischaracterization that if we cut anybody, that somehow I'm cutting into the conservation mission.
It's huge cuts, and the people you're talking about are actually the support staff. And when you cut support staff, that's not efficient. You know, how does someone drive a snowplow if you don't have a staffer that makes sure that the government gets the best deal to buy that snowplow? I mean, there's many detailed people that you're talking about that actually make sure that the spending is efficient, that the people are efficient, that we all know how important staff is. I mean, you can't survive without that. Those are the people that you're letting go. We can't be efficient if they are not there.
Well, are you suggesting that the National Park Service today is operating at peak efficiency and that there isn't any changes that I could make?
I would suggest that I welcome any suggestions to us about how to be efficient, but just mass across the board cuts and firing is really going to not increase efficiency at our parks, and that I think we all should be very concerned about.
But if the goal is for us to have more people working in the parks, you're comfortable if I can get to a spot where we have more people working in the parks?
You show me what employees you are leaving behind that don't support someone that makes sure that they have the equipment that they need, that is up to date, it's running, those kinds of things. You can't just cut those people and expect people to be out in the national parks without somebody who's making sure that their equipment is safe, that their hours are maintained, all the things that it takes to run a place. Our national parks are huge. They take a lot of people to run.
A state is huge. I've run in DOT. I understand the role of support personnel across Fish and Wildlife, Parks and Rec, DOT. All of these aspects of a national park are part of running a state. And I'm confident that with our team that we can achieve your objectives and still have a reduction.
One thing I am really concerned about, and everybody should be, is our national wildland firefighting efforts. And countless staff who provide the necessary support there. For example, firefighters put their lives at risk. Without support they need in many different roles, it just gets more dangerous. So those are the kinds of people that I am extremely concerned about, that without thought or really smart moves, that we're going to be putting our parks at risk.
Well, agree on the wildland firefighters. That's why Secretary Rollins and I yesterday held a joint event reaffirming our commitment to work together between the Forest Service and Interior, and our commitment to have full staffing for wildland firefighters this summer. And we're close to approaching that goal. And so we're fully committed and
Okay, I appreciate it. Just one really quick question regarding our tribes. You have a role in fulfilling the federal government's trust and treaty responsibilities to our tribes. I see numerous cuts across the budget that defends tribal police, putting together the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I just wanted to ask you, how many tribes have you personally consulted with on your budget request?
I've been meeting with tribes every week since I've been here. I've got a deep understanding of our challenges and shortage in law enforcement.
There's 574 tribes. Which ones have you met with? Have you consulted or met with?
I can happy to provide you a list, but I just recently had the Interior Secretary Tribal Advisory Committee. We had 24 representatives from tribes from across the country actually meeting in my office just a couple of weeks ago. Law enforcement was a key part of that. We had an opportunity to meet with the family of Emily Pike. I brought Kash Patel over. Of course, it's not just the BIA, it's also the FBI. When these cases get escalated, we have over 6,000.
I would just remind all of us that Kash Patel is cutting $500 million from his budget on this. So,
and he's providing 60 people to Indian country right now to help with the 6,000 unsolved cases on the missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is a priority for us.
All of us. And I just want to say that my tribes in Washington State are deeply concerned. They're telling us that these layoffs will eliminate natural resource management, basic social services, and they are horrified. So I hope that in your list that you will provide me that I see some of their names.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Murray. We'll turn to Senator Rounds. And, Mr. Secretary, just so you know, our votes have started, so you're going to